Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name's Matt.
My name is Dylan. Today is probably one of the most fun episodes we will have all season long because Telluride's behind us, Venice is behind us, TIFF is behind us. We have actual brand new concrete updates to the Best Picture race, including that illustrious TIFF PCA. And there was some
Ooh.
conversations in the last few days about some random TIFF premieres that could maybe win that award. And we were about to have this crazy debate of does the TIFF PCA mean automatic Best Picture nomination? But we don't really have to worry about that because HAMNET just won at the end of the day.
Yeah, for the first time since 2021, a non-TIFF world premiere has won the TIFF People's Choice Award. So, and Hamnet also, interestingly, Chloe Zhao becomes the first person in history to direct two TIFF People's Choice Award winners. Very interesting. I do wonder if Nomadland would have won in a normal year. I don't know about that, but Hamnet absolutely seems to have cleaned up. So the top three was Hamnet number one, Frankenstein, very surprisingly, at number two. But that definitely gives a little spark for that movie, a little bit of energy, a little bit of electricity, bringing the monster back to life a little bit more. And third place was Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out story. So that was the top three. This year, they also introduced the International People's Choice Award, which apparently you can get this and place in the top three, although none of these did. The winner of the International People's Choice Award was No Other Choice. Huge for that movie after it blanked at Venice. I would personally say that the votes of like 5,000 people at TIFF mean a lot more to me than 9 people on the jury at Venice. Then the runners up for the International PCA were Sentimental Value in second place and Homebound, a film from India, in third place. Now, Sentimental Value being not even being able to win this here, that hurts a little bit from my predictions. That hurts me deeply. And we will see that reflected when we get into Best Picture today. But Dylan, what are your takeaways from this?
Post Venice, both Matt and myself were pretty high on Frankenstein heading into the festival. The festival happens, we drop down a little bit, and then Telluride happens, and it seems like those reactions are kind of even worse. So I had removed Frankenstein from my Best Picture lineup. It was in my like 13 to 17 type range. I had slashed its technical nominations down to like two or three, but it placing number two in the TIFF PCA here shows that the people are on board with Frankenstein, that the early reception out of Venice was positive enough where Netflix showing that they have a long history of getting in some more divisive type movies that aren't universally acclaimed can push us into Best Picture off the back of a few technical nominations. So for me, the biggest thing out of TIFF is moving Frankenstein back inside my Best Picture lineup, as well as what we mentioned before, HAMNET winning the PCA, being not a super feel-good movie, but a pretty sad, depressing movie from all accounts. Winning the top prize shows that this movie is so strong inside the Best Picture race. And I mean, Chloe Zhao was the first person to win two TIFF PCAs. She may be the first person to win two Best Pictures in the modern era.
Yeah, since Clint Eastwood was the last time that that happened, which is crazy. For Frankenstein, I mean, we'll see where it places in both of our Best Picture rankings at this point, but I never took it out. I held strong. Fundamentally, here's the thing that I've felt this whole time with Frankenstein. All this talk about like Frankenstein underperformed. No, it didn't. No, it got exactly. I think people were maybe expecting like Shape of Water level reactions or reviews for this. It had better critical reception than Nightmare Alley, which was a Best Picture nominee. So to me, I never swayed. My path the entire time has been this gets technical nominations, and because of that, it has a lot of visibility. Netflix is already putting money behind it. It's got a great release date. It is clearly Netflix's flagship movie of the season. You know, whether it's their biggest priority for awards or not, I wouldn't say so, but it is their big movie. The same way that 2019, you had Marriage Story being the big awards contender and The Irishman also being an awards contender, but being their flagship movie. Didn't end up being their like top five contender end of day, but it was the movie that they put everything behind in terms of marketing and getting it seen. I see the same thing for Frankenstein. So it stays very low in my top 10. I don't think it has any chance of a win, but I really, really think people overreacted to it getting like a 75 on Metacritic. Like that's
I
a perfectly fine thing for a Guillermo del Toro movie.
I think that's very fair. My more so concern came from when it went to Telluride and the people you would expect to adore and clamor for this movie were even being like, it's kind of whatever. It's a little messy. It's a little boring. The visuals aren't all of that. But what I take away from that is Venice liked enough, like you're saying, it had a good enough Metacritic. It had a good enough critical reception out of its premiere. And then its TIFF reaction shows that the people are going to be behind this movie as well. So I think that's enough for Netflix, like you said, to sneak it in there to be a bottom five, but still in our eventual Best Picture lineup.
So, should we reveal what our number ones are? Should we get into that part of the video?
Yeah, let's dive in because both you and I have new movies at the top of our list since the last time that we did this.
Well, I guess I'll start because I said sentimental value has taken a hit. Not only did I need to see it show up in the top three, but it couldn't even beat No Other Choice at the International PCA. That hurts it. That is a big oof. That is a big no good, no bueno. And though I do still have sentimental value winning quite a lot because I think it has multiple acting prizes, screenplay, international feature, and possibly casting all looking really strong for it. At the moment, it clearly just the passion didn't show up for it at TIFF, and that's what I wanted to see. That's what we saw from Honora last year. It managed to convert its Cannes love into TIFF love and carry that through the season. And here, man, like it may as well have placed fifth place. And that's not great for this movie. So it's my number three. And I've put one battle after another at number one after months and months and months of saying, oh, I think that this is going to be a big flop and that the critics are going to like it but not love it. And it's just going to be, people are going to see it as like a Babylon type thing that some people love, some people don't love, and the audience won't show up to it. It'll be seen as a disaster financially at least. I've changed my tune on that. The early word, the critical reception, I mean, embargo's still out there, but the buzz right now is that this might be one of the best blockbusters of this decade. It's huge, it's exciting, and the word that keeps getting thrown around for it that's really exciting me is accessible. I had previously been worried about this film not being easy for audiences to watch, like an Inherent Vice type thing. But clearly, that's not the case. Clearly, this is fun and easy to watch, easy to get into, even if you're not familiar with PTA. So that's why I've got it at number one. I think that this might be Paul Thomas Anderson's Oppenheimer. It might be his The Departed. It might just be his moment. And while I historically on this channel have always been extremely resistant to saying, oh, it's this filmmaker's moment, because that rarely ever happens. I'm seeing the path. I'm seeing the path. I resisted Oppenheimer all season long, and I'm not going to do that again. The buzz right now is one battle after another. I'm falling for that.
For one battle after another is what you have been saying right here is what the early pro argument was for the movie all the way back in like January, February, and March is when people were still on board with this being a Best Picture winner was it is PTA's moment. It's his time. He's making the movie for the masses that people on all corners of film lovers can enjoy. And if that is what one battle after another ends up being, like what some of these early reactions from some of the big glitz and glamour screens that they had out in LA a few weeks ago are true for the masses, then yeah, I think this can go on to track for a Best Picture winner. But the reason why I don't have that number one, and I do have another film, which is Hamnet at my number one, is what I kind of alluded to a little bit before. It winning TIFF without being a super TIFF type movie shows that people really, really adore this movie. It has a package that you can put together pretty well for a Best Picture winner. You have an acting prize. You could get a screenplay. You could get director. You could get text. It has this backing support. And I mean, Yes, Chloe Zhao has won one before. It won for Nomadland, and you just mentioned a little bit before for TIFF. Would Nomadland win in a normal year? And you can kind of correlate that to Best Picture as well. And I mean, I feel like all the energy right now is behind Hamnet. Will that hold true for the remainder of the season? That's really to be said. And I mean, it could end up being Hamnet versus whatever the main Warner Brothers movies is. Is that Sinners? Is that One Battle? I guess this next month really tells us which direction Warner Brothers is leaning in.
I think that's really key here. And that's why I have Sinners down at number 4 at the moment, because I don't see a path for One Battle After Another and Sinners to coexist as top tier contenders. But right now, I see a path for One Battle After Another to take director, to take adapted screenplay, and possibly a little mini tech sweep right there. There's a lot of potential for this movie. And if that's the case, then that leaves Sinners with what? Like, you know, what can you give Sinners at that point? 'Cause at this point, I have given Sinners only 2 wins, which is score and song, um, which is pretty bad
And
for
here,
where we thought it would be a few weeks ago, even.
And here's the thing, if you think One Battle is sweeping, I think that One Battle probably should get your score pick as well, because Johnny Greenwood is someone who has been around for so long, who hasn't won before. And I mean, what we've heard in the trailer is pretty good stuff, and we would have to assume the full score would be pretty great.
That is true. That is true. I mean, you could see an argument for them saying, not a third time, Ludwig. Um, but how crazy would it be for Sinners to walk out of the Oscars with only Best Song? And that's not even guaranteed because of Wicked.
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to your comparison that we had in our last episode about Coogler being this blockbuster type director we've seen from Warner Brothers in the past, whether it is Barbie or whether it is the Dune movies. And I mean, that would fit with the trend of winning one or two key specific categories that are just undeniable. And I think that if you are looking for some wins for Sinners, I guess you could look for, like you said, score, song. Maybe that goes over to something like sound or cinematography, but I think those are more reaches over there. But those would be the
One
four that
battle
I think
after
the movie
another.
could still win without being the best picture type winner. But I think it is a real conversation to be had because it could be One Battle walking away with cinematography, yet we've seen this branch kind of neglect PTA in the past for self-shooting his own films. But I think another possible winner is Hamnet. We have heard the
Mhm.
raids of the cinematography from that film. Luke Ozawa is someone who has been around the block many of times, but has yet to come out victorious. So we went from 2, 3 months ago where we were very much denying Sinners, and then we kind of caved into it. And now we have seen that the fall film festivals have brought us some major contenders. And now we're kind of back to where we were a few months ago, where we understand the potential boom for Sinners of how it can get so many nominations. But at least for me, and I know, I think for you as well, our concern was always what would its package be? And now we're kind of seeing what its package could end up actually being, which is just the Barbie, which is just the Dune, which is just the Top Gun Mavericks of it gets those 10 plus nominations, but how many of them do they actually win?
Absolutely, 100%. I think you summed it up really well there. Now, for Hamnet, very interestingly, I think we're shaping up to an Oppenheimer Poor Things race here again, which is kind of interesting to look at because with Oppenheimer and Poor Things, you have 2 movies which are clearly number 1 and 2 for Best Picture, but Poor Things loses a lot of those categories that it's directly competing with Oppenheimer for. So here, you've got One Battle After Another and Hamnet, both competing majorly for director, both competing majorly for adapted screenplay, cinematography, possibly editing there. And so, really, even though Hamnet could walk away from the Oscars with only, 1, 2, maybe 3 wins, it would still, I think, be the runner up for Best Picture. That's how I'm feeling a little bit now. Meanwhile, Sentimental Value at number 3, I still think there's a path for it to win like 5 Oscars and be number 3 there. 2 acting wins, original screenplay, international feature, maybe casting. That's still how I'm feeling on Sentimental Value. And yet, I think the top 2 is so powerful that I don't really, at this moment, see Sentimental Value competing as much as the top 2 are. So I think that covers our four locks. If I think at this point we can say that the top four, these are all locked, right?
I would say for the most part, it sucks because we're recording this on Monday the 15th. I see one battle after another tomorrow, and this video will come out on the 16th. So, most likely it's a lock. I wish I could physically say for myself, but by the time this video is out, I probably would have seen it and probably will agree that it is a lock. I'm just holding back a little bit because it's getting a lot of rage from people who were targeted to be there, the super PTA fans, the people who always rave every movie they see every time. So like I'm not denying that this movie will not be great. It's just I want to see people who aren't the core demo say this movie is great to fully consider it locked. So that moves us down the line into the movies that either haven't been seen or kind of are teetering where they could be and could be out depending on where the studio really decides to go with them. And I guess the first one we should talk about is Wicked for Good. Is a film that both you and I have been super high on throughout this year. But now with the emergence of HAMNET, with one battle after another, it could slash a few of those nominations that we have been kind of saying it could return or could add on for this year, especially in like supporting actor or in some of the tech categories down below. And I guess my big thing with Wicked for Good is kind of the same thing for Avatar: The Way of Water a few years ago. As long as the movie is fine, I think it's good enough. And this being the only Universal movie inside the race, they don't have anything else to really teeter their minds to go elsewhere. I think as long as this movie gets good enough reception, it makes good enough box office, it may not be number four or number five in the Best Picture race, but I think it's going to be in our 10th at the end of the day.
Yeah, here's the thing for Wicked for Good. Like, it was filmed at exactly the same time as the first one, with the exact same crew, the exact same vision. They didn't take time off between, they filmed them side by side. There's no reason to believe that this will be a significant drop in quality from the first one. So, in my opinion, it's safe. It's safe. Now, just to talk a little bit about why this is now number five, despite us both having it a lot higher earlier in the year, we're having like a reverse 2022 right now, where it just feels like almost everything that we were expecting to hit is hitting. This isn't the year of like every contender getting slashed and cut down. Like the things are working out for the most part, and we've got a strong top four. So at this point, man, like Wicked just it needed some of that competition to be chopped off of the top, and that's just not happening.
But moving down the list a little bit more to movies that have been seen at these fall film festivals that we touched on a little bit in the last video, but we can really talk about their Best Picture chances here. We have stuff like A House of Dynamite. We have stuff like Deliver Me from Nowhere, which we both have inside our Best Picture labs in the edition of Frankenstein, like we mentioned before. And I guess my case for these are they did what I think they needed to do to showcase that they have enough passion heading into the fall film festival slate. And they have key nominations, I think, that will keep them afloat, as well as the studios that are behind them. Netflix, they have shown they can draw on two campaigns at a time, and these are two campaigns for A House of Dynamite and Frankenstein, like you mentioned before, aren't really the same. They're going in two directions. You have one that's all about the above the line stuff, and you have one that's all about the below the line stuff, and I feel like they can correlate to each other and help each other out throughout the race. And I guess I have one question for Deliver Me from Nowhere, and we talked about this on our Discord a few days ago, is it currently has the same Metacritic as the Smashing Machine. It currently has about the same theatrical rollout as the Smashing Machine. The Smashing Machine is currently tracking to make more money at the box office. So I guess my question for a lot of people out there who have Deliver Me from Nowhere as a lock for Best Picture, but a Smashing Machine is dead for Best Picture. What's the big difference here? Because Smashing Machine has the Venice Best Director prize in its pocket.
It's the Smashing Machine is tracking for more than a
So
Bruce Springsteen biopic.
right now, yes. I mean, Smashing Machine currently, it's very far out there because it's still 2, 3 weeks, but it's tracking to do 20 to 30 million dollars opening weekend. Those rock fans are showing up. Those wrestling fans are coming out. There was an IMAX early screening for AMC Lincoln Square that was posted at 10 p.m. the night before we recorded this, sold out by 10:10.
Hmm.
With no announcement before of, hey, tickets are dropping, boom, gone just like that. So I think there is going to be some populist cultural zeitgeist type buzz for this movie, which I've been feeling all year long. The reactions out of Venice weren't as universal as I would like to see. The Rock didn't walk away with the Volpe, but I mean, Safdie won the director prize. So I feel like there could be an angle here, especially if Marty does end up dropping out of the race, that A24 can get this one in.
I would be shocked if the Smashing Machine made more money than Deliver Me from Nowhere. And if that's the case, I would put Deliver Me from Nowhere so far away from the top 10 that it's unbelievable. Like to me, I mean, what did A Complete Unknown make?
I mean, A Complete Unknown was a weird one because it came out during the Christmas season. So its opening weekend was about 15, 16 million dollars, but it legged out to like 80s, I think 80s, 90s. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I mean, if
Okay.
Smashing Machine opens to 2025, hitting 80 should be pretty reasonable.
Oh, but I'm not even talking Smashing Machine here. I want to talk music biopics because if a Bob Dylan movie, who, he's well known, but I wouldn't say that he's like a rock star in the same way that Bruce Springsteen is. Bruce Springsteen was selling $1,000 tickets to his Broadway show. Like, it was ridiculous. People love the boss. If he can't break 200 worldwide, that's what I'm going to say. 200 worldwide, this is not coming anywhere fucking near Best Picture.
So I
It's so, I don't know. It doesn't have the critical reception to not be a massive box office hit. But if it is a big box office hit, then its spot in Best Picture is locked. It just
so
needs that.
I pulled up A Complete Unknown. It made 75 million domestically, 140 worldwide. And I would say the biggest caveat to what you said before is, yeah, Bob Dylan may not be a rock star, but Timothy Chalamet is a movie star. And the way that we haven't seen Jeremy Allen White prove quite yet. This could be Jeremy Allen White's first big box office foray, but we haven't seen him do that in the past. And I feel like A Complete Unknown might end up making more than Deliver Me from Nowhere.
That would kill Deliver Me from Nowhere instantly, in my opinion, because Bruce Springsteen should be pulling in the dads who go to the movies once or twice a year. This should be the movie that those audience members go and see. Bruce Springsteen has such big appeal, not quite like Queen, Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody level, but at least more than Elton John. At
Mhm.
least more than Elton John. If this can't pull Rocket Man numbers even, done for.
And I guess just circling back to my initial question here is what is the difference between Deliver Me from Nowhere and The Smash Machine? And I think it comes down to who's stronger in Best Actor. Is it The Rock? Is it Jeremy Allen White? And I think that is the ultimate deciding factor between these two movies and which one makes it inside the Best Picture lineup. If one of them is starting to sweep the season, that film takes the edge inside of our 10. If they're splitting left and right, I think the film that gets more of the critical push as well as their studio push, which at least at this moment, I feel like 20th Century probably will do a little bit better than A24. That's why I have Deliver Me from Nowhere in our Best Picture lineup. I think that will be the deciding factor, like what we saw a few years ago when it was between Austin Butler and Brendan Fraser. The movie that had the more studio support ended up getting everywhere. The other film was kind of missing here and there. And I mean, I feel like these are two films that are very similar in terms of their potential packages in terms of nominations, as well as their critical support at this moment. It's just how do they leg out from here in September into when we get to nominations in January.
It's interesting to hear. I don't think that there's any chance for either Jeremy Allen White or The Rock to win Best Actor at this point. They simply don't have the reviews to do that. They both have nomination reviews for sure, but I think for both of them, the nomination's the win. I do not see from what we've heard from Telluride and TIFF and Venice, I don't see either of these being the sweeper of the season. Not only are neither of these films through the moon critically acclaimed, but it
Who
just
who wins?
who wins? Timothy Chalamet could absolutely win. I mean, he's had buzz for years now. There's also the possibility of Leonardo DiCaprio, if we've got one battle after another, coming and taking all of these major prizes. Leo can easily get a second Oscar if the race is as weak as it seems right now. Because if it is Jeremy Allen White versus The Rock for both performances that are getting like good, not exceptional reviews, then it's a Tammy Faye level category at that point. So Leo can win Timmy can win. And I would also say that if they switch Stellan Skarsgård to the lead actor category, I would immediately put him at number one.
I mean, we are no studio campaigners. I think that might be the smartest thing to do at this moment because, I mean, while I do agree, if one battle after another is doing this amazing set of awards race, Leo can win. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the early front runner for a lot of that season, and he still couldn't beat like Taron Egerton at the Comedy Golden Globes Awards. So like, it seems like they don't want to go out and give Leo additional wins or even nominations after Kill Those Killers of the Flower Moon. So I think this race is pretty wide open. That's why I said with the current slate of lead actors, I think that it could be just like the Austin Butler versus Brendan Fraser year, where it's two films that aren't hugely beloved or acclaimed going back and forth and lead actor. One goes here, the next show goes here. And I think whatever one's strongest at nomination morning is the one that will edge out for that last spot in Best Picture. But just moving down our Best Picture lineups, we do have one film separate from each other at this moment. And you have Marty Supreme still in. I have Begonia still in. And my confidence in Begonia is winning day by day once we get real reactions from Marty Supreme, because I feel like my whole thing with Marty Supreme this whole season is so many people were so low on the Smash Machine saying, "Oh, he'll never make a movie that's Academy friendly. Oh, it's not going to hit." Why is the same sentiment not being carried over to his co-director? And
Mm-mm.
go ahead.
Uh, let me jump in there. That's not what people were saying. The reason people were saying the Smashing Machine wouldn't happen is because there were early reports from test screenings that it was really dark and weird, which has been proven not true. What it is, though, is a very realistic, gritty docudrama that doesn't really affect people, I guess. It seems like people are walking away from the Smashing Machine being like, that was good, but it was a boxing movie. It seems a little formulaic, with strong performances, but it doesn't seem like it's blowing people's minds. The thing with Marty Supreme, and the thing that we know from the trailer, from early interviews, is that Josh Safdie has made a movie that is so fundamentally different from Good Time, from Uncut Gems. This is a mainstream blockbuster. They spent $70 million on it to make a blockbuster, not to make an art film, not to make awards bait, but to make something massive and exciting and populist. That's always been the argument for Marty Supreme, is that this is not going to be like other Safdie brothers movies. There's a lot of arguments you can level against Marty Supreme, but I don't think It Might Be Too Weird is one of them. It's absolutely going to be like a populist type of movie. The main question is the public actually going to show up for the movie? Are people actually going to go out and support this? Is this going to get the big box office that it needs in order to be the populist contender that it's gunning for?
I guess my point wasn't more so the weirdness of the movie is if the lack of Academy appeal of the previous films from both of these directors when they've worked together, does it work for the movie that is a quote unquote Oscar bait type movie of a biopic of a more standard documentary in style of someone's life isn't good enough for the Academy? Why is the more blockbustery glitz and glamour version that is leaning towards the theatrical landscape going to hit with the Academy when we know these are the type of movies that they tend to ignore year after year with no festival presence coming at the same time as films like Avatar, with the wider release of films like Hamnet, of even other more glitz and glamour type populist audience friendly movies like No Other Choice getting released on the same exact day. Where is the attention to be going to Marty at that time when there's all these other huge contenders being released at the same time? The other movie I have rounding out my top 10 is Begonia from Yorgos Lanthimos. Focus features, they have Hamnet. We've seen in the past, they typically just run one campaign. However, in years where they have two films, usually their second film either gets multiple technical nominations or it slides its way into the Best Picture race, like what we saw with Phantom Thread all the way back when. My thing with Begonia right now is this is the easy movie to slide out if you're moving in something like Marty Supreme, if you're moving in a Searchlight movie, because we both do not have Searchlight in our top 10. So if Is This Thing On turns out to hit at New York Film Festival, this is the film that you pull out to put that thing in. Or if you want another international skewing title, like It Was Just an Accident or No Other Choice, or I guess whatever people out there want to say is the actual international thing, even though these are probably the only two alternatives that you have. We're coming down into the time of the season where our big boards go from like 25 movies down to realistically 15 or so. And I feel like Begonia is one kind of like Frankenstein, where a lot of people wrote it off right the moment when it released because it didn't get the universal acclaim of like The Favorite or Poor Things, which can be a negative if you are a director who has had so much positives with the Academy year after year, and then eventually you hit a point where it's not as good, but it's still good. And I think the thing for Begonia right now is it's guaranteed above the line nominations. Adapted screenplay, actress. Is that enough to get in, or is something just going to be stronger that is a studio's main push? Like I mentioned before, you have the two A24 films. You have Is This Thing On coming from Searchlight, or you have one of those international representations like what we saw with I'm Still Here last year, which was the main push of Sony Pictures Classics. And this year, all the real international contenders are all coming from the same studio. So we'll have to see, can Neon pull off this question we've had all year? Can Neon pull off two films gunning for the same nominations in basically every category? Or do they just focus on the one that is a potential Best Picture winner, which we've seen in years past? They just focus on the one that is the top five contender, and they don't really worry about the borderline 10 ones unless that borderline movie is their top dog.
How I'm feeling about Begonia is yes, I agree with you. It has some, I think, guaranteed above the line nominations. Emma Stone, adapted screenplay. And honestly, after Rental Family flopped at TIFF, I put Jesse Plemons in for Best Actor as well. So I've got three above the lines, plus a few below the lines as well. But I don't have Begonia in just because for a movie this weird, seemingly this violent, this strange, I don't think it has the passion that it needs. I mean, Poor Things, The Favorite were both weird movies, but they were so good that the Academy couldn't look the other way. Both of those had amazing critic reception, high 80s on Metacritic, high Rotten Tomatoes average critic scores. Begonia is landing in that like mid 70s range. There's no reason that a film like Begonia from a director like Yorgos Lanthimos should have that level of critical acclaim. And I know earlier I was saying, oh, Frankenstein only needed mid 70s. And now I'm saying Begonia is being killed by mid 70s. But I kind of believe that for a movie this weird and daring, you have to kind of get that consensus that it is astounding. Um, and Begonia doesn't have the consensus behind it. So that's why right now, I don't think it's Kinds of Kindness, but it's not Poor Things. It's not The Favorite. It's not going to be one of those contenders, which emerged above their weirdness because of how much people loved them.
Since Begonia only went to Venice and Telluride, it didn't hit TIFF, it doesn't hit NIF. Next up is going to be its theatrical release in about a month's time, and I think that's where the movie really lives and dies. If it comes out theatrically and general audiences seem to really eat this movie up, they like the weirdness, they like the sense of style from writer Will Tracy carrying over from The Menu, which was a film that hit with the cultural zeitgeist. This movie, I think, can coast around being one of these bottom three type contenders where maybe it doesn't hit every Best Picture lineup. Like maybe it misses out like PGA, or maybe it misses out at Critics' Choice, but I feel like it's going to be one of these movies going all the way up until nomination morning that is that borderline. Is it in? Is it out type movie? And I think at the end of the day, if we have adapted and if we have Emma Stone and if we're considering Jesse Plemons in, which I currently do have him in as well, I think that is enough to boot this movie over the edge of a film like, let's just say It Was Just an Accident, which is a lot of people's currently number 10 film if you look on like Awards Expert or Gold Derby, which is kind of banking on getting that mystery international director slot at number five, or with the downsizing of Rental Family, can move its way up into the number five slot of original screenplay, which I would agree that It Was Just an Accident or No Other Choice. One of them is going to emerge to be one of those other films that's on the outside looking in. At this moment, it's really waiting and seeing what does Neon do. Are they going with the TIFF International People's Choice Award winner, or they're going to go with the Cannes Film Festival Award winner for their number two? And I think they both have great arguments for them, and they both have really great arguments against them at this moment.
I don't know if I agree that No Other Choice has a great argument against it, Dill. I don't know if I agree with you. And frankly, I think putting it at number 19 below The Voice of Hindra Jab, which did not even place at the International People's Choice and does not have distribution, I think is absolutely insane. Um, my belief right now is No Other Choice winning the International People's Choice over Sentimental Value shows passion, shows audience support, and it shows Neon. If they're watching that, if they're looking at that, they should clearly see that that is a big contender that's going to get audience love, and it should absolutely be campaigned alongside Sentimental Value because both movies are clearly hitting with audiences well. I mean, No Other Choice beats Sentimental Value. That shows so much. I do not see any way that Neon looks at their slate right now and goes, but it was just an accident, won the palm. Like, what are we talking about at this point? No Other Choice has so much more support from audiences, so much more potential financially. I mean, critically, both are performing equally as well. Sure, No Other Choice didn't win any Venice prizes. That's nine people in a room deciding, and they made some weird fucking choices. They chose Jim Jarmusch for the Venice Golden Lion. That's such a strange choice for a winner that it makes me throw out all credibility for that jury altogether. And I liked Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. It's a good movie. It is not a Golden Lion. No Other Choice just has so much going for it if Neon pivots to making this their number two. And I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. It was just an accident, blanked with the People's Choice Award. Maybe I could see an argument. Maybe I could see an argument for it was just an accident being Neon's number two if it placed with the People's Choice Award there, but it didn't. It couldn't beat Homebound, the movie that came out of absolutely nowhere. So I just don't see why.
It might be crazy talk. I just don't think Neon is going to pivot away. We've seen historically going based off of release dates that they gave No Other Choice a date that they don't give films that they actually care about at the end of the day. And I also think like, yes, the 10th International People's Choice Award winner over Sentimental Value is a great thing. And maybe 19 is a little bit too low. Maybe I should move it up a few spots. I think that speaks more to Sentimental Value not being the potential Best Picture winner than it speaks to No Other Choice being a larger contender than what we had previously thought. Because yes, TIFF is for the masses. But I would also say Park Chan-wook is one of, if not the biggest international film director at this moment for the people that people will run out to go see whatever he does and want to go rewatch his classics on the big screen whenever they are re-released. I think if this movie didn't win, it would be a pretty big concern. And I think that going back over to Venice, I get small jury, not that many people, but I also think it does speak a little bit of volumes of the fact that this was the quote, quote, most acclaimed, most beloved movie on the grounds of the festival. And a jury of his peers, people in the industry, couldn't throw it a bone for anything. I think that speaks to that we could run into this award season, and I get it's came out, he said the reasons why. He did get booted from WGA. It is a thing that people, I think, will care about inside of the industry. And I think that the industry might not want to involve Park in this award season's race. Maybe that will be completely wrong. Maybe his explanation for why that happened is enough for people, but we have known in the real world, whether it's in movies or whether it's in other stuff, people don't go back for follow-up clarification. They see the initial headline. That's enough for them. Write it off. We don't care. We can't support blah, blah, blah. And I think that, yes, 19 might be low. Maybe it should be ahead of stuff like Wake Up Dead Man or Voice of Henry Rajab. But I also don't think there's a world where, what I've been banging this drum all season long, where Neon gets two in to begin with. So I think they're both films that rely on one specific thing happening, which I don't think is going to happen for either of those movies.
You know, the whole thing about Park and the WGA, I don't think that's why he lost Venice. I think it was just a weird jury that had a lot of infighting and it led to a lot of movies getting snubbed. A House of Dynamite got snubbed. Begonia got snubbed. Frankenstein, I don't think it got snubbed, but it didn't win anything. The Voice of Hind Rajab, no, it did win. It did win something. So many movies that were expected to get prizes did not get prizes. I think it's just very clear to see it's a weird jury and not indicative of anything regarding larger industry trends. But to the point of the WGA thing, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think there's going to be some writers that care, but I think by and large, people, and especially the international voters that typically go for films like No Other Choice, the ones that voted Drive My Car In, the ones that voted Triangle of Sadness, are they going to give a shit about American industry politics? I don't think so. And to clarify for anyone out there who does not know, who has not heard the follow up of it, the reason why Park and Don McKellar were expelled from the WGA is because they were editing the show. And they were not writing any new material. They were in post production, but apparently the way that they were editing and the changes that they were making and doing ADR was considered writing, which they were not aware of at the time. I don't think that's tantamount to scabbing. They were not writing the show, they were finishing the show. So I think people are overreacting to this. I think people are overreacting, and I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And even if it is a big deal, I don't think that the voters that typically support a movie like this will care.
Maybe No Other Choice can rise above the ranks and maybe not still may not make the best picture lineup, but still rise its ranks to number 11 or number 12 in the best picture race. I just have it down at 19 right now because the movies above it, I think, have a more clear path for potential awards. Is this thing on being Searchlight's top dog? New York Film Festival. Closing night is not normally a recipe for success, but what Searchlight has said publicly is the film wasn't done. We know firsthand this film wasn't done. It test screened less than a month ago, so they're still editing the movie to the last minute. Maybe that is a negative sign for the movie, but that also could be a last minute success. We know of many movies that finished its edit right before its festival premiere and went on to do massive things. So my big drawback with Is This Thing On right now is what do I take out for my best picture lineup? Like I said before, it's probably Begonia, but Is This Thing On's package is also not looking the best. Screenplay, actor, picture. Is there anything else that can really fit in there? Maybe supporting for Laura Dern, but we could have a year of no Searchlight because we haven't even talked about it yet. Rental Family blanked at the TIFF PCA, so it's most likely out of picture, out of screenplay, out of lead and supporting actor. But maybe Searchlight can still work some magic, revive this film, and snag it into some of those categories that are a little bit weaker for contenders, like supporting actor or original screenplay.
I was wrong. You were right. The rental family buzz. I kept saying, "Oh, maybe the older audiences will support it. Maybe this is a Belfast situation where, all of the young people at the festival are like, that's what's supposed to win the PCA, and then it does anyways because the older audiences love it enough." I said that before. You told me I was crazy because everyone was just giving this a 7 out of 10. That's a 7 out of 10 movie. It's just decent. It doesn't have the passion. You were right. You were right. Rental Family. Whoop.
For Rental Family, it's so weird because like all year long, people were saying, "Oh, it's doing this, it has this acclaim, it has this acclaim." But like when you look at like the test screening logs, it was never officially test screen. Like I know it was test screen, but they never officially stated we're test screening Rental Family today. Give us your reactions, blah blah blah. It was just we're testing upcoming family comedy. Come see. And I just think that people were making organic buzz or trying to make organic buzz for a movie they wanted to see succeed. And what we've seen in year in, year out when we have films like this, Saturday Night is an example from last year. These films rarely live up to their expectations, and that doesn't mean they're bad films. I love Saturday Night, but obviously it was not an awards player, and it seems the same thing is destined for Rental Family, where it seems to be a good film. It's just not a beloved super acclaimed film to push it over the edge for its what we saw from the very jump, its very limited potential nomination package.
And I guess we haven't really touched on Avatar Fire and Ash. At this point, I have it very tentatively in. I'm not feeling like this needs to be in Best Picture. I think it could easily fall off, especially because I don't think it's even going to get all the nominations that The Way of Water got, which of course didn't get all the nominations that the first one got. I could easily see myself taking this one out of Best Picture, but at the moment, it just feels right. It feels like it fits there, despite some of my worries about whether this can carry the passion forward. Now, you are our big Avatar Awards stan here. So, what are you feeling at the moment for Avatar Fire and Ash?
I mean, I feel like its three additional nominations to Best Picture seem pretty good. Visual effects, I mean, kind of hard to argue against a win, let alone a nomination. Sound, I feel like is going to find its way in. I guess that's its most contingent category at this moment with the most potential other films being contenders. But I also feel like one of the main things that makes Avatar what it is the sound, especially considering when a lot of the environments aren't really actually there. So they're making the sound from scratch of the environments around them. And then I think that also kind of correlates to production design as well. This time around, we're going to a brand new land that we haven't seen before. So it's new biomes, new environments, new colonies, and I feel like that's what got Way of Water in for those little houses on the water. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen here for the fire colony. So I feel like its four nominations from last time will carry over this time around. And I think it would have been interesting if we go back to The Way of Water, if casting was around it, since you introduced so many new youthful actors. Would that have been a contender for that nomination? This time around, it's not at all. Not saying that, but it's something to consider in the future when we get to Avatar 4, when Stunts is around, because that will be an additional nomination to add to your nomination tally.
I'm wondering, is there anything else you'd like to talk about here? Because I'd like to briefly touch on weapons. Do we think weapons has any chance? We've heard that Warner Brothers is planning a Best Picture push for this movie alongside One Battle After Another and Sinners. I think it's clear that this is the number three priority of those three movies. But I wonder how far this can get. And I am warming up to the idea of Amy Madigan getting into supporting actress.
I guess for me, Weapons follows in the limelight of last year when Neon said we're giving Longlegs a Best Picture campaign. And we saw about how far that went with both picture and for Nicolas Cage. So I would say the same fate falls Weapons this year, just with the addition of a potential WGA original screenplay nomination. But as we've been told recently, not many movies are ineligible at WGA this year. So like there's not going to be that many disqualifications like last year where we lost like three or four major contenders, especially in that adapted screenplay category. So like this year, or sorry, the original screenplay categories. Like this year, it could look pretty similar to our real Oscar nominations. And I guess I kind of feel the same way over there with Jay Kelly and Netflix, where like we know it's Netflix, we know that the support is, I guess, somewhat still around. I think the Venice initial reaction, unlike Frankenstein, unlike Begonia, was a huge major death blow. But the Telluride critics poll came out today, and apparently Jay Kelly scored phenomenal there, which doesn't correlate with what any of the buzz was on those screenings. So I guess it comes to, how does Jay Kelly play when general audience members get to see it? Can they rally behind and say this is a film that we think is fun and we like it? And Netflix can be like, hey, we've pulled this off for like Lost Daughter, we've pulled this off for Naiad, let's get some acting, let's get a potential screenplay nomination in here. But I don't think picture is still on the board for Jay Kelly.
But really, I think that does bring us basically to the end of this new Best Picture predictions. Again, so much has changed. So much will continue to change. The New York Film Festival's coming up, Philadelphia, where you are, as well as Virginia. There's so many film festivals that you're going to be able to see stuff in. I'll be seeing things bit by bit as they drip through New York City. But we should see a lot of these contenders by the next time we have Best Picture. And the race is going to keep shaping up. This is the time of year where things change fast. And I'm excited for it.
Honestly, this is gearing up to be one of the most fun Best Picture races we have had since starting this channel, because I mean, Everything Everywhere, you had coast to coast the whole year long. Oppenheimer, from like June, it was the definitive Best Picture winner. And then last year, Anora was basically either one or two the whole season long. And this year, both of our number one, two, and threes, at least two of those top threes are films that we didn't have in the top five when we started the year off.
It should be a lot of fun. As always, thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt.
My name is Dill, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.